Hello to all our audience tuning into our channel. We're so glad to have you with us. Stay tuned for exciting content. Let's get started.
The movie starts with Maddie faces a harsh reality when Gary, a repo man, arrives to seize her car due to unpaid property taxes. The situation becomes personal as Gary reveals he's also hurt by Maddie's 3-month disappearance from their relationship. Maddie admits she ran away because her feelings were so intense they scared her. She genuinely missed him and thought about him constantly. Their emotional reunion is interrupted when Gary spots Maddie's Italian cousin at her house, leading to suspicion and jealousy. Despite Maddie's protests that it's innocent family culture, Gary feels betrayed and decides to proceed with the car repossession. The part ends with their relationship in shambles, Maddie calling Gary a jerk, and her facing the loss of both her car and her income source as an Uber driver. The gentrification subtext emerges as Maddie struggles with rising property taxes driven by wealthy newcomers. Maddie desperately tries to maintain her livelihood and save her inherited house from foreclosure. She's caught speeding while working as an Uber driver and warned that one more infraction will cost her license. At a local coffee shop, she encounters wealthy newcomers who embody the gentrification threatening her community. The tension escalates when she works at the Claw restaurant, where entitled summer residents demand service before opening hours. A confrontation with an aggressive customer nearly results in violence, but her boss, Fern, intervenes. Fern reminds Maddie that these wealthy visitors, however obnoxious, are essential for keeping the business running and the locals employed. The part highlights the economic dependency that locals have on the very people who are pricing them out of their own community. Maddie's frustration with the situation is palpable, but she's forced to swallow her pride and apologize to maintain her job, illustrating the power dynamics at play. Facing financial ruin, Maddie brainstorms increasingly desperate ways to raise money for her property taxes, including selling body parts. Her friends Jim and Sarah suggest various schemes, from OnlyFans to renting out her house, but Maddie rejects ideas that would compromise her principles. The turning point comes when they discover a Craigslist ad from wealthy parents offering a car in exchange for someone to date their shy 19-year-old son Percy before he goes to Princeton. Despite the questionable ethics, Maddie's friends encourage her to consider it, arguing that wealthy people exploit locals regularly. The conversation reveals different perspectives on intimacy and relationships, with Maddie sharing candid reasons she's had relationships in the past. Jim's inappropriate comments about sending his pregnant wife instead highlight his character flaws. Ultimately, Maddie decides to pursue this unconventional arrangement, driven by her determination to save her mother's house and her pragmatic view that she's had meaningless encounters before without receiving anything in return. Maddie meets Percy's wealthy parents, Allison and Laird, at their waterfront home after they've demolished the previous structure. During the interview, she lies about her age, claiming to be 29 instead of 32, and positions herself as mature enough to handle their son's needs sensitively. The parents revealed their deep concern for Percy's social isolation. He's brilliant and bound for Princeton, but lacks friends, doesn't date, and remains in his room constantly. They want someone to help him gain confidence before college, having tried everything else. The arrangement must remain secret to preserve Percy's dignity. Maddie then visits Percy at the animal shelter where he volunteers, pretending to want to adopt a dog. She meets Percy, a sweet but socially awkward teenager who follows rules religiously and seems genuinely caring toward the animals. Their interaction is stilted as Maddie attempts to connect with him, but her aggressive approach and suggestive comments make him uncomfortable. The part ends with Maddie offering Percy a ride home, setting up their first private encounter outside the shelter environment. Maddie takes Percy on their first official date to a local bar, despite his being underage. Her approach is overly aggressive and inappropriate, trying to force him to drink and making suggestive comments that clearly make him uncomfortable. The evening takes a turn when Travis, Maddie's ex-boyfriend, appears and publicly humiliates her, revealing details about their failed relationship and how he's now happily married. This encounter exposes Maddie's pattern of running from emotional intimacy. Later, at the beach, Maddie pressures Percy into skinny dipping despite his concerns about safety and rules. Local teenagers steal their clothes and Maddie violently confronts them to retrieve their belongings, shocking Percy with her aggressive behavior. Her attempts to initiate intimacy are crude and pushy, treating it as a transaction rather than connection. Percy, despite his inexperience, demonstrates emotional maturity by refusing to be intimate with someone he doesn't know well. The part ends with Percy feeling sorry for Maddie, suggesting he sees through her tough exterior to her underlying desperation and emotional damage.
Maddie and Percy return to her house after their beach encounter, where Percy experiences anxiety-induced hives that prevent them from being intimate. While applying cream to his rash, they share vulnerable moments about their pasts. Percy reveals he had to change schools after rumors spread about sleeping in his parents' room, which escalated into false accusations of inappropriate behavior. Maddie opens up about her father, a wealthy man who had an affair with her mother, then abandoned them both with money and a house to make them go away. When Percy wrote to his father years later, the letter was returned unopened on prom morning, causing Maddie to skip prom entirely. Their emotional connection deepens as they comfort each other, with Percy asking permission to kiss her. However, their moment is interrupted by a text from Jody, Percy's former nanny, requesting to meet at the lighthouse. This part shows both characters' emotional walls beginning to crumble as they share their deepest wounds.
At the lighthouse, Maddie meets Jody, Percy's former male nanny, who clearly maintains a close relationship with him. Jody immediately shows protective instincts toward Percy, giving him a vintage surfboard and warning Maddie not to hurt him. The tension between Maddie and Jody is palpable, with Maddie suspicious of his motives and Jody making veiled threats about his connections to powerful families. Meanwhile, real estate broker Doug Kahn approaches Maddie about selling her house due to the county lien, revealing the ongoing financial pressure she faces. Despite Doug's persistence about the house's value and her financial situation, Maddie firmly rejects his offer and tells him to stay off her property. The part establishes Jody as both a supportive figure for Percy and a potential obstacle for Maddie, while reinforcing the economic pressures threatening her ability to keep her mother's house.
Maddie and Percy have a romantic dinner at a restaurant, treating it as the prom they both missed. Percy surprises everyone by playing piano and singing Man-Eater beautifully, demonstrating hidden talents that captivate the entire restaurant. Their magical evening is disrupted when Natalie, a girl from Percy's social circle who's also attending Princeton, joins them. Natalie's presence forces Percy to confront his impending departure for college and the reality of his relationship with Maddie. When Natalie mentions a Princeton student party, tensions rise, as Percy realizes Maddie doesn't want to do long distance. The conversation about his future becomes strained, with Maddie being dismissive about visiting him at college. Percy, feeling hurt and wanting to prove his maturity, decides to attend the party, despite Maddie's reluctance. Their perfect prom evening dissolves into conflict, as Percy begins drinking and making impulsive decisions, showing his inexperience with alcohol and social situations. At the high school party, Percy becomes intoxicated and takes what he thinks is a harmless pill, actually mixing alcohol with ibuprofen. Maddie searches for him frantically, encountering hostile teenagers who mock her age and film her for social media. She finds Percy upstairs with Natalie, and while nothing inappropriate happened, Percy is dangerously drunk and disoriented. Maddie helps him vomit and tries to care for him, but the situation escalates when Natalie's parents arrive at the party. The confrontation becomes physical when Natalie's father tries to remove Maddie, leading to a chaotic scene where Maddie is literally thrown out of the party.
The incident highlights the class differences and the parents' protective instincts toward their daughter's social circle. Percy witnesses the parents' treatment of Maddie, creating tension in the situation. The part ends with Percy's growing attachment to Maddie and the complications arising from their relationship, setting up the final act of their story. After the party incident, Percy becomes more rebellious against his parents' control, declaring himself an adult who can make his own decisions. He announces he won't attend Princeton to stay with Maddie, alarming his parents, who realize their plan has backfired. The parents contact Maddie, revealing the truth about their arrangement. They had hired her to help Percy gain confidence, and they're willing to give her the car even though they haven't been intimate. However, they need her to convince Percy to attend college. This conversation is overheard by Percy, who discovers the entire relationship was a paid arrangement. The betrayal devastates him, leading to an angry confrontation where he vandalizes the car his parents promised Maddie. In a moment of desperation and hurt, Percy and Maddie finally become intimate, but it's mechanical and emotionally hollow. Percy's innocence is lost not just physically, but emotionally, as he realizes he was manipulated by both his parents and Maddie. The part ends with Percy's bitter recognition that his privileged life doesn't shield him from emotional pain. Percy refuses to communicate with Maddie after discovering the truth, leading to a dangerous confrontation when she approaches him at a Princeton mixer. Desperate to explain herself, Maddie jumps onto the hood of his car and refuses to get off until he talks to her. This leads to a terrifying car chase where Percy drives recklessly with Maddie clinging to the hood, culminating in a fiery crash that destroys the car. After the accident, they have an emotional reconciliation where Maddie explains that while the arrangement started as a transaction, her feelings became genuine. She tells Percy she sold her house and is moving to California, encouraging him to attend Princeton. Percy admits their intimate encounter counted to him, showing his emotional growth. The part represents both characters' moment of truth, Maddie finally choosing to let go of her past, and Percy learning to value himself beyond others' expectations. Their relationship ends with mutual understanding and genuine affection, despite its complicated origins. In the final part, Maddie reveals she sold her house to her friends Jim and Sarah instead of to developers, allowing them to stay in Montauk with their coming baby. This decision represents Maddie's growth from someone who was desperately clinging to her past to someone who can make sacrifices for others' happiness. Percy prepares to leave for Princeton, having reconciled with his parents and gained the confidence he needed for college. As he departs, Maddie surprises him by announcing she's his Uber driver to Princeton, giving them one final journey together. She teases him about her new boyfriend, a former cop with a troubled past, showing she's ready to embrace new relationships despite their complications. The part ends with both characters having grown from their experience, Percy more confident and ready for independence, and Maddie finally ready to leave Montauk and start fresh in California. Their relationship, while unconventional and painful, ultimately helped both of them move forward in their lives.